Science, philosophy, and economics can teach us a lot of things about most things in life, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a question that keeps many up at night, and many are desperate to find out. And that is, can money buy us happiness? So, wonder no more, because there's a new research by these two brilliant researchers that this report that's been published, and on their study conducted on over 30,000 adults ages 18 to 65 with incomes over $10,000. And it's actually a very interesting study because it debunks the research done back in 2010 by Nobel Prize winning economist and psychologist Daniel Kahneman, where basically what he's saying is that after $75,000 worth of income, there's diminishing returns as far as happiness goes.
So once you get above that, what they were talking about is that once you get above that, the increases aren't as impactful.
Right. So it's kind of like the impact of one more dollar beyond that $75,000 mark doesn't really make much of a difference. It doesn't move really the needle for you.
Okay.
But then later on in 2019, Matthew Killingsworth, a researcher and senior fellow at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, said that there is actually increasing happiness well beyond $200,000.
Okay. So what you're saying is that these studies indicate that there may actually be some impact to people's happiness as their income increases.
Oh, absolutely.
Which previously had been said there's a cap on this, but they're saying it actually goes higher now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, exactly. So Daniel Kahneman was basically like, no, after 75,000, there's not really much value in increasing your income. But then Matthew Killingsworth was like, no, there's actually quite a bit of value there. So
how did they conduct this study? Like, what were the parameters that they went through creating this study?
Yeah. So here's kind of how it worked. Participants were pinged at random moments throughout their day to ask about their emotional state. Basically, just I think the text was on a scale of very good to very bad. How do you feel? Right. And
that's really broad.
That I know. I thought the same thing.
And for most people, it's probably like, I don't know, have I eaten lunch yet?
Yeah, it's like, did I get the sex before or after lunch? Or
because that can make a big difference in my mood, if we're just being honest.
Right. Like for me, if it was like a minute after I woke up, I'm not gonna be feeling very good. Yeah, it's not gonna be a good answer for me.
But back to the study.
Okay, all right. Back to the study. So one caveat is that there was not a substantial amount of data for earners beyond $500,000. So, so as far as the value beyond that, maybe this isn't the most insightful study on that. But here's the findings. So on average, having more money does make us happier. Surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or at least we perceive ourselves as happier.
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
And it looked like it said about 20% of people were unhappy to begin with, and their unhappiness diminished up until about $100,000. And from that point forward, it didn't really have as much of an impact, if I'm reading that right.
Yes, exactly. So if people were, pretty much just unhappy to begin with, then there was actually still a positive impact of increasing income, but not as much beyond that $100,000 threshold.
And when we were talking through this the other day, we of course we have no proof for this part, but we wondered if maybe the impact of inflation in recent history has had some impact on that, because the dollar's not stretching as far as it used to. So we wonder if that $100,000 would maybe even be higher if it were done today versus even a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that has an impact. And here's an exception to kind of the whole trend of money making people happier, though. So the exception is people that were already rich and miserable.
So basically, if you're just miserable, it's not going to matter how much money you make.
Exactly.
Especially if you're already wealthy and you can't find happiness there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, there is a ceiling to that.
Exactly. Exactly. And and your, I guess, initial well-being or emotional state. But another thing that they learned from the study is that there's degrees of happiness, and that there is a perceived ceiling as well, right? So, somebody that starts out on the lower part of, I guess, the income scale, the increases in income have a larger impact than somebody that's already, living well off. Then maybe that same increase wouldn't impact them as much.
Right, because the need probably isn't as great. So that the positive feelings I would get from a 10% raise if I were making, $50,000 a year is more impactful to me in my day-to-day spending, my day-to-day habits than maybe if I made more. Even though the dollar amount is more, it's just the impact because of where the budget sits already.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and apparently there's also kind of a happiness ceiling, which I'm not really sure what that means.
Yeah, yeah. That to me seems silly. But then again, also I'm kind of a weird one. I say this a lot about a lot of things. I guess I'm just weird in general. Happiness is something that to me seems very fleeting.
Elusive, for sure.
Yes, and very subjective, very much based on momentary feelings. So for me, I've always kind of felt like happiness is a little bit silly to chase. Joy is probably kind of the thing I like to chase, but that's a whole other conversation for another day. There's no ceiling on joy, in my opinion. You can always be joyful.
That's true. I think to me anyway, joy is your ability to respond in a positive way to situations.
Yes. I read something the other day and it was talking about how your circumstances can sometimes be out of your control. Now, you're almost always in a situation because of choices you've made that got you there. But how you choose to perceive those circumstances can have an indelible effect on your future. So, for instance, I get a flat tire. I can choose to just be furious at the world and woe is me and, lose my crap, which I will for at least a second. But I don't have to stay there.
Right.
I can just say, okay, I'm here. What am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
And thankfully, I live in the South, so I have not had to yet get up underneath my car and to do too much work on it because usually there's some wonderful person who comes along and helps me. But, I could sit there and mope and then nobody knows what's going on, or I can get out of my car and start working on it, and usually someone will come along beside me and help, which is a lot like life. If you get going and you start making progress, people want to help you, so you don't have to go it alone.
True. Absolutely. So from the study and, these takeaways, what would you say are some possible conclusions that you would draw from this?
I think one thing is, financial matters do cause stress. Everybody has to own that. We've all experienced stress over money at some point in our lives. So this idea of increased income creating more happiness, that could seem kind of obvious that that's going to happen. But it's more so because of that ability to just meet your obligations. I don't know that it's, and of course this is my opinion about what we read, that I don't know that money truly buys happiness, but I think being financially sound can give you more perceived happiness, that if you feel like you can meet your obligations, then you're going to have less stress about money and thus feel a little happier about it. Yeah,
I completely agree. I mean, I think, we preach financial independence so much, and I think that's what this is, right? Is that I think a higher level of income probably gives that perception of financial freedom to people, right? Because, a study from the Lending Club shows that as of January 2023, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck.
And I know, part of me just has a little sticker shock when I see 60%, but the number's not been far from that for a long time.
Right. It's pretty consistent.
High.
Yeah.
So this is basically in alignment with where we've been for a while. So we can't blame inflation.
Right.
We can't blame, 2020. We can't blame what's been going on recently because this number's been pretty steady for a while.
Right.
I think it's more of a societal norm that's been set up, that people have not been taught young to live within their means. And then when they become adults and they realize how expensive things are, they panic because they still want to live that lifestyle that they see everybody else living.
Right.
And so they end up making poor financial decisions. So I hate to hear this, but I've been there too. I mean, my husband got laid off during COVID and we were real tight for a while there, and it was a little ugly, but we were able to find our way out of it by just buckling down.
Right. Yes. So the crazy statistic behind this as well is that from this 60% of Americans that live paycheck to paycheck, 4 out of 10 of those include high income earners, which points to possible lifestyle inflation as kind of the culprit behind all of this.
Well, and that tells you that your income is not the culprit.
Right.
I mean, think about your clients who come in that are the ones that have paid off their house or the ones that have paid cash for cars. They're typically not people who make large sums of money. Right, they're just people who are very smart with the money they do make. And that was probably one of the biggest eye-opening things for me when I joined this team and started working with clients, was to realize it is not the guys out there, the ladies out there who are making over $100,000 a year that are financially sound every time.
Right.
It is often those that are just kind of your average middle class people who have just chosen to, really manage their finances well, that are in great shape.
Right.
And when they get a raise, they're usually the ones that are saying, hey, I got a raise. Can we save more?
Exactly.
Which is really cool to watch.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I had a meeting with a buddy not too long ago, actually earlier this week, and he just finished up his master's and he's going to start a job here pretty soon. And I was just excited to just talk to him because he's gonna have this job where he's gonna be making a lot more money than he's used to, and he knows though that he has been living off of a much lower amount.
Yes.
So he wants to know what he needs to do at this point, right? So it was just a really cool conversation because he's going to have quite a bit of extra free cash flow. So making wise decisions with that. And before he even starts, getting that in the bank,
yes,
is such a great decision. So I'm excited for him.
And I would have loved for them to have also taken this study and done it kind of in a different way, where they measured people's perceived happiness as they paid off debt.
Oh yeah,
because there's this relationship back and forth between your income and your debt level, and a lot of people I think ignore that. That does have a similar, to me at least. I got to pay off my van recently. I sold an old piece of property that I had and was able to pay off my van, and just the I own this.
Yeah.
It felt pretty cool. So I don't know. I think that would have been an interesting study to see too.
Oh yeah, I agree. And to me, the question kind of in this is, could this just be a side effect of unwise spending decisions stressing us out rather than money actually making us happy,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be really interesting to see. So, but what does this mean for you out there? Like, what are we trying to help people understand from this study? Yeah,
and one of the things that one of the economists mentioned in this study is that money is just one of the many determinants of happiness, and he added that money is not the secret to happiness, but it can definitely help.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one point that I would definitely agree with. Because I think without a doubt, having that increased solvency, right, that increased free cash flow, is something that gives anybody, a lowered level of stress.
And if you find yourself, even as you progress in your career, just miserable still, then the question is the issue your finances, or is there something deeper that you need to deal with? That's what that told me earlier when you said, well, if you're wealthy already and you're unhappy, money doesn't help.
Right.
So, sometimes we need to just change our perception of our circumstances.
Yeah. And, one thing that I read not too long ago, I follow a few different kind of financial wellness type of accounts on Instagram. And there was one that was really, really interesting to me. I can't remember the amount of seconds that there are in a day anymore. But okay, if you think about that, right, like the several thousands of seconds that there are in a day, right? And if you thought about that in terms of money, right? So that several $1,000s worth of money, and if you had a bad moment during the day, let's call it $10,000 worth of a bad moment, would you throw the rest of it away? Right? Meaning, would you throw the rest of your day away just because of that one bad moment, right? If you think about it in terms of dollars, would you, if $10,000 all of a sudden, got stolen from you, right? Would you turn around and burn the rest of that huge pile of money?
Yeah.
And the answer is no, right? But a lot of people, including myself, if we have one bad moment, during our day, whether it be a few seconds of somebody cutting me off on the road, or somebody getting bad news at work, or getting bad news in just like my personal life, right? It can cause a lot of us to throw the rest of our day away.
And on that financial twist, if you make one bad financial decision, that doesn't just mean you're bad with money. It just means you made a bad decision. You need to move forward and make a better one next time.
Exactly. Yeah. So now something kind of funny from that I got from the study is some kind of comparisons that the researchers made, and just because I'm thinking, like, how do they measure this? But so apparently the effect of an approximate 4-fold difference in income is about equal to the effect of being a caregiver twice as large as the effect of being married, about equal to the effect of a weekend, and less than a third as large as the effect of a headache.
Okay.
Think about that one for a second.
There's a quote from a movie, speaking of quotes, where they said, I feel like they just found a thesaurus and started throwing some words together. On when you read that, I've read it probably 4 times in preparation for today, and I'm like, I don't quite get it, but I'm just going to go with it because they're very smart people.
Yeah. So apparently, if you multiplied the amount of income that you make today by 4, you would be as happy, or you would have an emotional feeling of essentially being married, or twice.
Two times as large as being married.
Yeah.
But it is the effect of a weekend. So it's 2 times as much as being married. You're twice as happy as being married if you make 4 times as much. But you're only equally as happy as a weekend.
So apparently,
this is a really
instead
good
of getting married, people should just have more weekends. I don't know.
Apparently. But I
or
think
wait for the weekend.
I think what we really learn in general about finance that we wish everybody could take to heart is that margin is so important. And that margin being space. Having a safety net, having a system that allows you some wiggle room in your finances.
Yes. So, okay, I'm going to get started with just kind of our 2 cents, right, for our listeners here. So I think that we have all experienced the joy of finding a $20 bill at like that random parking lot.
Or if you're a lady,
you
you found it in your jacket from last season, most likely.
I guess that's
usually where I find money, and I'm always excited.
I'm always more excited to find somebody else's money because if I just find my own money in my pocket, just like a later time, it's not as happiness.
Got it.
Yeah, anyway. So it's undeniable, obviously, that money has an effect on us, but I believe it's because of what we can do with it, right? So how would reaching financial independence make you feel, right? Like how would being debt-free make you feel? So I would encourage you to focus on those things rather than just focusing on making more money.
Yes. And if you are curious if you're on track to achieve financial independence and your goals specific to that, but you're not sure, we've got some tools for you on our website. It's called the 6 Keys to Financial Independence. You can go to getreadyforthefuture.com to find that, or you can reach out to us at info@getreadyforthefuture.com.
Well, that's it for us today. Thank you so much for listening to us. If you like the content, give us a like and subscribe to your YouTube channel to listen to fresh content every week.
Thanks for listening to the Talking Sense podcast. And if you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the podcast to get all the newest episodes.
The GenWealth team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com or call our offices at 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526.
And while we like to have fun here, we're also financial advisors, and that means disclosures. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success.
GenWealth Financial Advisors is an Arkansas registered investment advisor with securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.